All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Jeroen Nelemans. I am currently part of a group exhibition at the Hellenday Art Center titled Love Letters, and it's curated by Rachel Moore. Um, Other artists in the show are Louise Bourgeois, Robert Buck, Molly Davis, Jim Dine, Tracy Emin, and John Killicky. Um, I was asked by the Art Center to talk a little bit my work, talk a little bit about the space I'm working in, and maybe give a little bit more of an insight of the work that is currently on display at the Hellenday Art Center. So I'll basically be babbling into my iPhone. And I might actually use some post-production to insert some other clips and looking at my computer screen, because that's really how I make art. I am just behind the computer screen and mostly in Photoshop. And those are my templates, those are my canvas, and those are my brush strokes, as they say, right? So I hope to tone it down into 10 minutes or less, as I was asked to. So we are currently sitting in my second bedroom in here in Chicago. I used to have a studio in a different neighborhood, but the building got sold, and 2 years ago I decided that the second bedroom became my studio. I actually made also some other drastic kind of decisions, where I used to work with light boxes and other kind of materials. Now I'm really focusing only on photo paper and a desktop, my laptop, and a scanner. And within that kind of limitations, I really trying to focus on the process and the ideas that I'm having with my current work. It has been extremely beneficial. I really like the accessibility of being in my second bedroom. If I just want to see a work in process for 2 minutes, I can. And I think that's a really valuable exchange, being in your own home environment. The downside, of course, are it's not a space to hoard material anymore. It's not a space for to be dirty, and I think hence my limitation and my kind of like restriction of only using photo paper. I do all my printing myself in a center here in Chicago, so I do have some hands-on kind of like art making, but I just really enjoy sitting behind my computer and make work. This is another another benefit of working from home, is the fact that the finished artworks are also displayed on my walls, and so I actually see them constantly, or dismiss them constantly. But the idea that you see your artwork in a home environment and in different lighting is something that is really beautiful and beneficial. I think what I want to do before we go into the work that's hanging now in the Hellenday Art Center, I want to talk a little bit about my earlier work very quickly, and how things progress, because I feel that the latest work always informs the newer work. The more I see it, the less I grasp. I acquired 8 of these light boxes, and I really like the idea of presentation. But at the time, also very interesting in the physical space of a light box and seeing this kind of space into layers. Um, One layer being the back of the inside of the light box, another layer could be the actual light bulbs, and another layer could be what is in front of the light bulb, the actual image, which is a transparency. Since the inside of these light boxes were reflective, I was able to shoot the inside with a green screen, meaning everything that became green, I was able to green screen a new image inside of it. The next Lightbox series that I want to highlight is titled Scapes in RGB. It has a similar threat in the sense that now I'm not looking at the physicality of the lightbox itself, but I'm looking at the physicality of the digital image. I'm a big fan of Sugimoto as a photographer. I started my photography career with a 4x5 camera class, very technical, very analog. And so I kind of wanted to display these beautiful seascape photography by Sugimoto, and took screenshots of them and displayed them on my iPad. I then put physical water droplets on top of the iPad, and they started to function as a wide angle lens, exposing the RGB subpixels that is inside of the iPad. And that consequently makes up the grayscale of these seascapes. So you have this really idyllic, beautiful seascape that is now interrupted by these digital speckles, and really commenting on the fact how we are experiencing this black and white image. So, sorry. So for many years, I was doing these kind of like appropriation of iconic works. I was replicating Mondrian paintings using wall mount laser levers from Home Depot. I was using iconic images of Vermeer, replacing them with the interior lighting scaffolding of museums that actually lit up these paintings to begin with. I was doing Olbers. I had a lot of kind of iconic artworks pre-digital age and how they are relating to the backlit image. Over the time, I realized that I wanted the subject matter to become a little bit more personal. And one of the way of thinking was like, how do I, what images are important for me, or what digital images are important to me? So we all have this notion of the high school crush, and I think we all have had a high school crush. And so I decided to do a portrait series of my high school crushes, and it wasn't about their identity, it was more about the feeling and the nostalgic value that now comes along while seeing these digital images. So what I did is that I had these portraits displayed on my computer screen, different sizes, because they would have different end results in terms of the size of the individual RGBs. I would basically have the computer screen directly on top of the scanner, and the scanner is able to see and document individual RGBs that the human eye cannot see. So again, it's another way of revealing what's behind the image, or what is inside of these devices that we are looking at. I then have 3-4 layers of these beautiful RGB abstracted kind of grid form imagery of faces, and then I wanted to abstract it even more. I wanted to fuse these layers together, and I decided to kind of look at camouflage patterns. Ended up just using my own color pattern, not necessarily a camouflage pattern, but a color pattern that had a very kind of feeling that is slowly, there's some kind of gravity going on. They're slowly melting over a decade long, like a patina on a metal. It's slowly changing. And these color patterns were also came from the idea of Oscar Wilde's Dorian Gray, the idea that you want to stay young, right? The nostalgia of the younger self. But also, you know, at what cost, right? The painting itself started to deteriorate. Depending on which movie we're talking about, there's one in the 60s, there's one in the 80s, I believe, that I think that came in one out just recently. But I love the idea that these kind of like the painting itself is physically changing and it's almost melting in order to stay young. And that's kind of similar effect to how I approach these photographs, that not only am I obscuring the identity of my high school crushes because it's about the high school crush itself, it's about the feeling, but also the idea that, you know, something is changing, this kind of like maybe the digital decay that comes along with it, that we are not aware of yet, maybe, and how. So yeah, that's kind of what it comes down to.